Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day?
Hello everyone, my name is Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is July 10th, 2025. And as I speak, at the time of recording, Bitcoin is currently making all-time high, but I'm here to tell you I'm still not bullish on Bitcoin. I'm going to say why that is, or reiterate why that is. I've been talking about that for quite some time. And why I'm not bullish on Ethereum. So I'm going to give you a downside target to Ethereum. Downside targets I typically reserve for crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service clients. But I'm going to give a bit of a sample here, and we're going to look at Ethereum and work on that downside target. Why I'm not bullish on Ethereum. That being said, I'm extremely bullish on most of the altcoin space. There are certain altcoins that have been on support that are showing such strength. We're going to look at why that is. We're going to look at how that is in the total 3 in Bitcoin dominance chart. So if that all sounds interesting to you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's look at Bitcoin on the 4-hourly time frame to start. Okay, so Bitcoin is, as we speak, moving, and it's moving up, but ever so slightly. That being said, if you have any kind of contextual appreciation for this price action, we are still at resistance. We're at 2 resistances. We're at the resistance of this almost 50-day channel that you can see here, this teal channel, okay? We're pretty much at the same level. And so we've been dilly-dallying at resistance for quite some time. And we are at resistance of a larger 230-day channel, okay? At this point, almost 250-day channel. So you're at resistance levels, and you haven't put in the requisite bullish maneuvers. What are those? Well, channels break from the midlines, not from the tops, not from the bottoms, okay? Bullish channels retest the midline from the upside down and then back up. So what you would expect on the smaller time frames is, if you are really genuinely bullish on Bitcoin, what you would want to see is something like this. Holding this right here, holding this as support, and then moving up, okay? And we may still get that, but again, this we've ascertained in previous episodes was a likely target for the upside for Bitcoin, okay? I'm still expecting in the immediate short term a retracement, either down here or all the way down here, okay? And then a move back up to our target of 118, okay? So what are we looking at? We're essentially looking at a corrective pattern. And I have these 2 ABC flat corrections drawn in. Just a quick refresher. The red or pink one is the larger ABC correction that I see taking place. And we're currently in the B portion of that, which I have in white, okay? And as you can see, it's likely that we're in the C wave of this, we're in the C wave of this B wave. We may be in the C wave of this B wave, but we're in the B wave. We can say that with a high degree of probability we're in the B wave. 2 things that may likely happen. We may, as I said, get a slight retracement down to the baseline of this rising wedge, this ascending diagonal, okay? And then pop up to 118. Or this may be a zigzag that looks something like this. So we get a rejection here all the way down to 101 and then a pop out to 118. I think the latter is more likely, but I don't know. either way, what I do know with a high degree of probability is that you're going to get a small move down and then a larger move up. That's it. And once you get to this level, then it's really dangerous. You're already quite in danger territory. I know Bitcoin's at all-time high. People love that phrase, but take the context into account, I beg you. You do not want to be hanging out at all-time high for 200 plus days. That is a disaster. You don't want to be hanging out at or near all-time high for long. That basically means you're likely in a distribution channel. You're likely in a channel that's likely to break to the downside. The way you want to, if you're bullish, the way you want to interact with all-time high is very briefly. You want to find a support level and then just destroy it. You want to break it within a week's time, no more, no less. You want to go past all-time high swiftly. You don't want to hang out at all-time high. Hanging out at all-time high means it's a likely distribution and you're likely going to break down from those levels because you're basically just liquidity hunting for late longers and people who just don't get it that the top is in on a higher time frame. Okay, so that's Bitcoin as I see it. Let's talk about Ethereum, because my social media feed, my Twitter feed is littered with people saying, oh my god, Bitcoin's pumping and Ethereum's pumping, and so we're definitely getting the pump of a lifetime in all assets. Now, Ethereum is not bullish at all, okay? Just like you can recognize high likelihood levels of resistance in Bitcoin, you should be able to do so with Ethereum, okay? So there's two things. Again, you're dealing with, on the smaller time frame, this price action right here, okay? You've been in this channel. Let's just do it by hand. Yeah, you've been in this channel for quite some time. And this is about 58 days, okay? So you're hanging out at the resistance of this channel. You're right below it. So even if you went up a little more, you're not bullish. Okay, you're not bullish when you're hanging out at resistance by definition. I'm just talking about, technical analysis. You're not bullish hanging out at resistance. You're bullish on support. On high time frame support, you're bullish, and that's when you want to get excited, not at resistance. The second thing that's very unbullish about this chart, and again, we're on the daily time frame, so all these candles represent a day's worth of trading. You have this right here, break of the channel, okay? That's foretelling. That's telling you that it's very unlikely. Obviously, channels break to the downside all the time, and it's called a spring. Sometimes you can experience that in bullish accumulation channels. The price goes below the observable support, but mathematically what you want to do is, and I can eye this, you want to keep the phi ratio, or 1/618 of the previous swing high. So let's say you measured this as the previous swing high right there. Look at exactly what this did. If you're reading price action properly, it's telling you everything you need to know. So what I just said, in a swing or any kind of retracement, as long as you're staying within the phi ratio, it's within a standard deviation. It's fine. It's like, whatever. It's okay. It's not considered a break of structure. That phi ratio is very important. What did price do? It literally hit the phi ratio and wick below it, showing you and telling you without a shadow of a doubt, this ain't bullish. This is not a recovery. This is part and parcel of a distribution pattern that's actually like this. So I'm going to take my channel for Ethereum and I'm going to move it down, and I'm going to treat this as a midline. Okay, so Ethereum's not bullish in any shape, in any way, shape, or form at this point, even though it's gone up like this. What you're seeing here is a counter. So you have break counter, break counter, break counter. Or sorry, let's see. I would count this as break counter, break counter. I'd say this is break counter. So I'd say it's a third break and counter. So you can go up, you can wick above this perceived resistance even if you want. But what's happening with a high degree of probability is you're coming down. Okay? So in so many ways, I can say, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I think those are the most compelling arguments for this being not bullish. And I guess the last one that jumps out at me is, this is not a proper recovery. This is not a recovery you see that is sustained. There's no base that was formed to convincingly tell me that buyers are sufficient. There's a sufficient amount of liquidity in this dip right here to move the price up and beyond and form higher highs and higher lows in a bull market. That's not how it happens. That's not how it works. You have to launch from steady support. And if you do get a V-shaped recovery, they do exist. It'll be part and parcel of a larger trend that's of accumulation. I hope that makes sense. It's not too confusing. Basically, what I'm saying is, you didn't do the requisite accumulation on the smaller time frames to convince me that this is a sustained move. This is a move that's going to come down on itself, retrace upon itself, and go much lower. And so let's zoom out. How much lower? That's the question a lot of clients ask. As you can venture to guess, a lot of people are interested in Ethereum. A lot of clients are interested in Ethereum. A lot of people are interested in Ethereum. It's the biggest altcoin there is. So what are my targets for Ethereum to the downside? Well, now for that, you have to zoom out even more, okay, and look at the larger context for a higher degree, or a higher degree of certainty, a higher degree of for a higher likelihood read. You have to look higher time frame. So the higher time frame, you're in a larger channel, and that channel has been going on for quite some time, right? And this kind of channel, right, of 1,000+ days, lends confidence to people being bullish on Ethereum for the bull market. So should Ethereum have a bull market? Absolutely. Why would you say that? Because look, this is 1,000+ days of accumulation. You're showing your work. You're showing buyers accumulating over 1,000+ days after a bear market retracement. Okay, the bear market came down to this level. You start accumulating. You pop up. You come down. Actually, over here, I thought it was over. I thought this was an inverse head and shoulders, or sorry, a ascending triangle. I think it's an ascending triangle, or a cup and handle, whatever you will, whatever I have in purple. Okay, I thought that broke out, that retested, and Ethereum would start its bull market. It broke back down. Okay, it broke back down here. I didn't expect that. So now, given that read and what price has shown me on the high time frames, I'm reading all of this as such. One break, one counter. Second break, second counter. I'm looking at Ethereum as being on the last leg of a retracement. So basically a third break, third counter. I'm expecting support naturally to be at the support of this 1,000-day channel. Okay? And essentially what's happening here is you're getting a rejection from the midline of the 1,000-day channel. And remember, midlines are rejection when you're below it, support when you're above them. So Ethereum's right now experiencing, and has been for the past 60 days, resistance at the midline of this channel, and naturally should come down. For me, if I look here, there's no observable levels of support to hold the price. So I think it's very likely you're coming down here, if not even wicking slightly below, to grab that last ditch liquidity that you typically see in accumulation patterns, long standing or even short term accumulation patterns, which is called the Wyckoff spring. So I would say that my target for Ethereum is between 1,000 to 1,400. I think the conservative target is 1,000. The more bullish, or the more optimistic, if you want to say, target is around 1,400. Essentially at the base of this 1,000-day channel. Okay, at or slightly below this 1,000-day channel. I think that would be a great time to be bullish on Ethereum, but not at resistance, right? So you're looking at about a 50% declension. And that, my friends, is consistent with what you should expect for Bitcoin. So I think if I'm looking at Ethereum on a high time frame, and I look at Bitcoin and I know Bitcoin's chart, and I know what I'm expecting from Bitcoin on a high time frame before Bitcoin goes into its bull market, I think this is the final stages of accumulation, if you want to call the bear market both the drawdown and accumulation. You can say that Ethereum is in the final stages of its bear market, and it ends here. Just like you can say Bitcoin's in the final stages of its bear market, and it ends between 60 and 70K. Yeah. So that's my take on Ethereum. This is why I would not be bullish on Ethereum at this point in time. And I don't necessarily expect Ethereum to break significantly up from this level, regardless of what the small time frame price action indicates or suggests. Right? On the small time frames, we're at 2,800. Again, you're playing at resistance. You do not want to do that if you're bullish. This is already like 50 days worth of resistance. You're playing at it. You know, a smart trader sells resistance, buys support. That's, you know, all the stuff that can be said about trading, about chart analysis. You can get into the weeds, you can get really complex, but that's basically rule number 1, 2, and 3. Buy support, sell resistance. You're at resistance, you sell. Okay, so that's Ethereum. Those are my targets. And of course, for clients, I go through and I give them, you know, levels for support, for resistance, where to buy, where to sell on a monthly basis. So yeah, that would be an example of how I would do an analysis for an asset, and why I would tell my clients, for instance, you know, while Ethereum is in this level, in this large range, you sell. You're selling the top. Anywhere here is a great sell, because that is a distribution channel with a high degree of probability. It's not where you want to buy. It's where you want to sell, divest yourself of assets, wait, and buy much lower. Now, let's get into altcoins. Having said what I said about Bitcoin, having said what I said about Ethereum, how am I at all bullish, and why wouldn't the entire market dump? If Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't bullish, why wouldn't the entire market dump? That's a good question. I will say this. Short answer, most altcoins are ahead of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Look at the total 3 chart. So the total 3 chart on a high time frame, while Bitcoin and Ethereum are in the last stages of its bear market accumulation, they've put in the final touches of bear market accumulation. Okay, you can see that actually, if you want to do apples to apples comparisons, because we looked at 1,000 plus days of price action, In Ethereum, look at the aggregate total 3 chart. So remember, the total 3 is all of the altcoins minus Ethereum in the cryptocurrency space. So it factors in, XRP, it factors in Cardano, it factors in Litecoin. Although XRP may not necessarily be bullish, Litecoin may be bullish, Cardano may be bullish. It's just an amalgam. It's an average. Okay, past 1,000 days, you've put in your bear market accumulation, the ends of bear market accumulation. You can see on the high time frame what Bitcoin is currently doing, what Ethereum is currently doing, most altcoins have already done. Most altcoins have been really in the depths of their bear market accumulation for the past 1,300 days. So what you're looking at here is a completed accumulation, as you can see in this red inverse head and shoulders, breakout, retest of the retest, and then your final breakout. It's taken so long, it's so hard, and I want to acknowledge the difficulty. I want to acknowledge the pain. So many times we want to idealize, and especially us YouTubers, and people that advocate for crypto, people that are influencers in crypto. You talk about how beautiful Bitcoin is, how beautiful crypto is, and how glamorous it is. We talk about the gains, and we talk about, how you can make life-changing money. But let's talk about, very briefly, the 1,300 days of going down and sideways. 1,300 days of your family calling you crazy. 1,300 days of not making any income, of your having red P&Ls. 1,300 days of showing nothing for all of your efforts, for all of your investments. 1,300 days of questioning yourself, your sanity, and your better judgment, right? Are you insane? What are you doing? What the hell did you invest in? What are you wasting your time on? Is this a scam? Oh, that's probably a scam. That's pain. That's difficulty. So technically speaking, that is what translates into the year plus long pump of sustained up and to the right price action. It's ugly and it's beautiful at the same time. It's beautiful insofar as it's a natural thing in nature, just like you have your fall and your winter, and leaves fall in the fall, in autumn, and you see nothing, and it's desolate, and the temperatures fall, and then in the winter you see nothing, and it's barren, and nothing takes. But all the while, that seed that was planted in the fall or late fall starts to germinate, and it's hiding underground, and it's germinating, and it seems like nothing's happening. This is it. This is that seed phase. This is where your gains are germinating. They're germinating, and this is the spring. They pop out a little bit. You see some I forget what the term is, the first few leaves, and then the plant starts to sprout little by little, and then you see trees there. It's very difficult, though. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely discouraging. I want to acknowledge that. I don't think we acknowledge that enough in this space. I want to acknowledge that. All right, let's get on with it. Okay, so altcoins, in my estimation, based off of this analysis, high time frame analysis, they're a step ahead. I'm going to fix my screen really quickly, and I'll continue. They're a step ahead of Bitcoin and Ethereum, as well as other altcoins that I tell my clients, hey, no, wait till that's on support. Don't invest in that. I want you to invest in this instead because it's on support. This is an imminent breakout. Now, on the smaller time frame, let's look at what's likely happening. So you have altcoins having come here and made this liquidity grab of this 60-day channel. I think it's 60 days or something. February through May. Yeah, it's like 60 days. 3 months. 90 days maybe. I don't know. Whatever. This high time frame channel broke out, retested. You always need that retest. That was the retest. There is an example of a V-shaped recovery, a liquidity grab that's likely to continue because the work was done. The work was done. Now this is the recovery here. You're chopping up through resistances. I talked about that in last episode. And on the small time frames, you formed a channel. So I want to focus on this teal channel right here, where you've ground up and to the right. It's only 2 weeks, 16 days worth of price action, but just like any channel, what should you expect? A retest of the midline, because midlines are where channels break out from. So in the time, on the small time frames, that Bitcoin retraces to wherever it retraces to on the small time frames, you also expect a small retracement from altcoins. But if they're bullish, as I claim, what you should expect on this total 3 chart is a support, a holding of support, a bounce off of the midline, and that is when the big move of alt season starts. Alt season right here, very clear, right? That's the first wave. You come back down, you hold that midline, and you keep going. That's continuation. Expect that kind of continuation for a year plus. This is what we worked for. And so that is why I'm more bullish on most altcoins, not on Bitcoin, not Ethereum. Because on a higher time frame, Bitcoin and Ethereum are not bullish. All right. Last but not least, and I know this is long, but it's been a while since I've made a video. I've been quite busy. Let's look at the total 3, the Bitcoin dominance chart that corroborates my analysis. Okay, on a high time frame, we were talking about Bitcoin dominance breaking down, and you can see apples to apples comparison. We're looking at the daily chart, and we're talking about Bitcoin dominance being on this level. And if you treat this as a channel, we're very excited because you're putting in the finishing touches of a breakdown. So remember, channels only break from the midline, not from the top, not from the bottom. And you can see another example of that here, right? I'm just go with my hand-drawn sloppiness. You test the bottom and the top, you retest the midline, you find resistance, you finally break down. Okay, that confirms our previous read, our previous anticipation of what was likely happening on Bitcoin dominance. To close this out, what do we know has to happen? You can't break a channel without both retesting the midline and without retesting the bottom support as resistance. If in a bearish channel, right? In a bullish channel, it would be the top resistance as support. But the idea stands. You're expecting a retest, a bearish retest of this previous support, right? So let's zoom in on the 4-hourly time frame, look at it more closely. So the Bitcoin dominance, and remember, Bitcoin dominance is a measure of Bitcoin's dominance vis-a-vis altcoins, right? So if Bitcoin dominance is going down, that's your alt season. That's your cue for altcoins beating Bitcoin. Altcoins are more bullish than Bitcoin. So let's redraw our channel. You can see midline retest failure that we expected. Now, what do we expect as the last move before leaving the boundaries of the channel completely? A retest of the bottom support as resistance. This is likely, and this is what we should expect. We should expect rejection at this level. That should coincide with the slight decrease in altcoins. And then a move down here is the next larger move. You should expect a larger move in altcoins from this level. Guys, that corroborates our read on the total 3. That corroborates our read on Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can look at Ethereum dominance if you want as well. I'm not going to make this video too long, but go ahead and pull up your Ethereum dominance chart, and you should also see why Ethereum is, like Bitcoin, not bullish on the high time frames. Guys, that's all from me. Hope this was helpful. If this was useful, like, share, and subscribe. If you got value, consider tipping me via Venmo, Litecoin, or Cash App at the pinned comment below, and consider my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service, where I help you choose up to 5 altcoins that are likely to produce sustained gains in this coming alt season, or in this alt season, I can finally say. And I help you identify tops and bottoms, support levels and resistance levels periodically, so that you can maximize your gains. All right, that's it. Take care. Bye.
Endeavors to occupy my prevalent time slot. I vocalize, too deep to localize. Even when I'm right on the surface, you act surprised how I work this, but I can't lie. Many a good alibi. I'll catch you later.
Visions are vividly enhanced with emphasis and amethyst to develop morale advantages which help us manifest magnanimous. We body vitals like evangelists. So listen when you're dealing with people who be revealing premonitions with precision. At least that's what I'm aiming at for now. I speak the language of the world, meandering throughout the crowd. Used to feel safe to say anything, but now it's a risk. It's hard for me to let go when all I can do is reminisce. Gone like the wind, here's where I begin. Should I smile or should I grin?